Okay, so let's finish it off here. So we have our total product, we have our average product and our marginal product. So we're looking at those in terms of how many items. Now we've done our total cost. We have the total cost of production here broken down into variable and fixed costs. Now what we're going to do in the last three columns is we're going to find the average variable cost. So in other words, we're going to take the total variable cost from this column and we're going to divide it by the total product, by the number of items that we produced. In other words, we're answering the question, how much, either variable cost or total cost, how much cost is included on average in each item. And so I've got my calculator here. You're going to want a calculator for this exam. Okay, so basically here we're going 0 because division by 0 is impossible. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to look at the total variable cost divided by the total product. So right here, here's the variable cost, $20 divided by 120. Okay, so $20 divided by 120 items produced is about 0.117. I'm just going to round it to two decimal places. Okay, so we're going to do the same here. Total variable cost of 40 divided by the total product of 280. So we've got 40 divided by 280 is about 0.14. And then we've got total variable cost of 60 divided by 410 items. So 60 divided by 410 equals 0.15. And then we're going to say total variable cost of 80 divided by 520. 520 is 15. If you could see three decimal places, you'll see that this is starting to rise. This was just under 15. This is just under or just over 15. So the cost is rising again. Total variable cost of 100 divided by 580 items divided by 580 is about 0.17. Then we have total variable cost of 120 divided by 620. 120 divided by 620 items is about 19 cents. We've got total variable cost of 140 divided by 640. 640 equals 22 cents. And then we get to variable cost of 160 divided by 640 items is going to be equal to about 25 cents. So basically you can see that the average variable cost, the amount of variable cost involved in each item, initially goes down, but then it starts to go up again. And you can see why that would happen, because like our average product of labor starts to go down at this point. You see, like our average product, the amount produced by each unit of labor goes up here and then starts to decline. So it follows from that our cost should go down. We're getting more out of each labor unit up to this point, and then it starts to go down. We start to get diminishing returns, so the cost is going up, right? Let's see how our total costs behave. So now what we're doing is here we were taking our total variable cost divided by our total product. Here we're going to take our total total cost divided by the total product, right? What is the total of all the costs, and how does that translate into each product? Well, okay, so we've got 0 here. So we've got total cost of 80 divided by 120. 80 divided by 120 is about 0.67. Okay, then we've got total cost of 100 divided by 280. So 100 divided by 280 equals about 36 cents. You know, dramatic decrease there. But then we're going to say, okay, total cost of 120 divided by these 410. 10 equals 29 cents. 0.29. Okay, and then we've got total cost of, okay, so that was 120 over 410. Now we've got 140 over 520. 140 divided by 520 is 27 cents. Okay, and then we've got total cost of 160 divided by 580. So 160 divided by 580 is 28 cents. So here it's starting to go up again. We've got total cost of 180, 620 items equals 29 cents. And we've got total cost of 200 divided by 640 items is 31 cents. And then we've got a total cost of 220 over the same 640 divided by 640 equals about 34 cents. So you can see the behavior of this overall. Now, one thing I'd like to point out is like the average total cost goes down up until about this point, and then we start to increase the costs again. And really that's because like the average total cost consists of partly the variable cost, but also the fixed cost. So we're also taking that and we're dividing it over the number of items that we produce. So we're going to get average total cost, which again is going to be high. It's going to go down a little bit, and then it's going to start to rise again. So we've got like kind of a scoop like this. Okay, so now let's look at the marginal cost. Now what we're doing here is we're looking at the change in our cost divided by the change in total product. So how much is our total cost changing, and then how much is our total product changing, and like how much are we spending on each incremental product that we're getting, right? So this marginal cost is going to be very significant, because if you've read through the literature, what you've come to realize is that our marginal revenue, or our price, for a period of the production cycle is going to be higher. The marginal revenue, in other words, the amount of revenue we get from each item, or the price, is going to be higher than the cost until the point where they're equal. And that's the point where we say, it's kind of a magic point where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. And we've said that that is the most profitable point. At that point, we have squeezed as much product out of this operation as we possibly can, as much profit out of this operation as we can. So this exercise doesn't ask us to do this and compare it to the marginal revenue, but that is why we're going to calculate these costs, the marginal costs, because that is going to be the most profitable point for a firm. Now, going on in the course, we're going to look at, how the level of competition and the nature of the market that the firm exists in is going to impact the decisions they're going to make surrounding this point. But, the bottom line, and what we're looking at now, is what is the marginal cost. So we're going to call it 0 here, and then we're going to look at it here. Okay, so in going from 0 to 120, so that makes our denominator 120. So we've got a total product of a total product of 120. Our total product has increased by 120, and our total cost has changed here has changed here. Our total cost here has changed by 20. So we're going to say, what is the change in the total cost? The change in the total cost is 20. And we're going to say, but we got 120 items out of that. So we've got 16.7 or 0.17, right? So that kind of makes sense that the average variable cost would be the change in the cost, right? Like that's the only change that's been made. Let's see what the change in total cost is here. It's 80 to 100, so we've incurred $20 of additional cost in order to produce, like from 120 to 280 is 160. So we've got 20 divided by 160 equals 12.5 or 0.13. Okay. Now we're going to keep going down the line. An additional 20 to get, what is 410 minus 280? We've got 130. So we've additional cost of 20 divided by 130 equals about 15.3 cents, so 0.15. Okay, then we're going to say, okay, our total cost increases by 20 again, and we get from 410 to 520, so that's 110. So we've got 20 divided by 110, and that's going to be 18 cents, 0.18. Now I'm rounding these to 2 decimal places. You're going to see when you do it on your own calculator that you can see sort of the finesse in here, right? So then, what's the next one? We've got a difference of 20 in our change in total cost. So 20 divided by the amount of additional units. So from 520 to 580, that's 60. So 20 divided by 60 is 33 cents. That is quite dramatic. The increase in the marginal cost, the amount each new item costs us at that level. Okay, we've got 20 divided by, here we've got 40. So 20 divided by 40 is going to be 50 cents. And then going from here to here, we've got 20, and we've got 20 units, so that's going to be $1. And here we've got $20 of additional cost with no change in our total product, so that's actually not even applicable. So what we see here is that the marginal cost goes down and then gradually starts to increase as well, right? So we're going to have another curve that's going to be angled that way. So this is how we do all of these calculations. Now, how are we going to interpret them? Well, the first part of this is to fill out the table, and then we're going to say at what level of labor do we have the maximum productivity. Well, what does maximum productivity mean? Well, the maximum productivity means the lowest average total cost. So at what point do we have the lowest average total cost? Well, we could see it's at 4 units of labor, we have our average total cost is at its lowest. So it's the lowest point in the average total cost. At what quantity of output does the law of diminishing returns begin? So at what point are we getting diminished actual returns? And you can see just from looking at the average product of labor, right? Average product of labor is the return of adding an additional unit of labor. So where does that start to diminish? It starts to diminish when we get to the third increment of labor. What's the average fixed cost at 2 levels of output? Well, at 2 units of input. So at 2 units of input, what is our average fixed cost? AFC, average fixed cost. So we're looking at here. So what is our fixed cost? It's a total of 60 divided by 280. 60 divided by 280. So our average fixed cost at that level equals about 21 cents, 0.21, right? So when we're looking for the average of any of these, the average fixed cost, we're going to take the total fixed cost and we're going to divide it by the total product, the number of units that we're producing. And then it asked me, what is the average total cost at 2 units of input? Well, for that we just have to look along here, and our average total cost is 0.36. So that is the way we're going to do that question. There are a lot of elements in there that review for you the material that you studied in Chapter 7. So as I said, we're going to need to carry this forward. We're going to need to be able to recognize how these look on a graph. And we're going to need to understand how these costs behave in order to go on to our study. So we're going to go on and study 4 different basic types of markets and how that will impact how business decisions are made based on these cost behaviors.